is going to be huge. That equals the fight. Well, one game in the books already here for Playday 7, the final Playday for OCN Stage 1 for 2021. But this is the big one, guys. It's Chiefs versus Wildcard, and it's going to now determine not only playoff ramifications for these two teams, but the teams as well below them on the standings.
Oh yeah, this is going to be a bit of a banger, and the fact that it's a difficult to predict game as well only amplifies the tension. Both of these teams not in the greatest form this stage.
Well, I mean, to a degree. I mean, Wildcard, of course, have got their reason. Chiefs started really, really well. They even broke the new oil curse. I think that might have been in APAC South, though. For the most part, I still think Chiefs may be coming into this as slight favorites, but we know old Wildcard could turn around and have a big game at any moment. Let's go and look at the Chiefs, though. Of course, their season is not secure, guys. They need to win this game. Well, kind of. Let's have a little bit of a talk through. Here's how simple it is. A regular win secures playoffs. An overtime win secures playoffs. And guess what? Even an overtime loss secures playoffs. If they do lose, well, then there's some fancy stuff that will go on, which we'll get to that if it happens. But for the most part, these guys, of course, the former Elevate roster, surely they can't miss it from here, right, guys? Surely.
Ooh, 6 rounds, I guess, then is the target. They've just got to at least at minimum reach that and secure overtime. Easier said than done, especially in high pressure scenarios. And I bring this up every time. Raven, if he's watching, is going to absolutely hate me for it. But this roster, way back in Pro League Season 10, it was the final play day of the regular season, and they just missed out on making that LAN final back then in the old format. So there is a small sense of deja vu that's overcoming me at the moment, that maybe they'll fall at the final hurdle again, but surely they do it. I mean, this roster's just too good, aren't they?
It requires a lot to go wrong. Like, I mean, a lot to go wrong, right? They've got the highest chance out of the 4 teams that, of course, are still in contention to actually go through. If they lose, they can actually still make playoffs. Crazy. Let's go and look at their opponents, who, on the flip side of Chiefs, well, they actually have the least amount of chances out of all of the other teams, kind of. They lose, they miss playoffs. If they get an overtime loss, they also miss playoffs. So all that means is they've got to get an OT win or a regular win. Now, an OT win means it's pretty unlikely that they will make playoffs, as they will need a lot more to go their way. But a regular win doesn't even secure them playoffs, guys. Can you believe it? That's right. Even if Wildcard win this, get all 3 points, they still need to require other results to go their way. It shows more than anything how inconsistent they've been this season. They've had their downs, they had a few ups in the midpoint of the season, and then a few more downs towards Playday 7.
I guess there's no real worse feeling normally when an end result is out of your hands, but sometimes we see teams play better when they're not under as much pressure, and you could argue maybe weekly that there's not as much pressure here for Wildcard necessarily to perform amazingly, just because their chances are so slim of actually making it through. They'll just be heading into this one saying, boys, we'll give it our best shot, we'll see what happens, and maybe them playing a bit freer with less pressure might see a better result.
I've already done a bit of maths already. I've already done a few of the calculations, but there's one more stat which I do want to bring up now, which will hold more bearing in another matchup tonight. It's actually Rhythm. This is a strange one, guys, but Rhythm would be cheering on Wildcard. I know it's weird, but they actually want Wildcard to get all 3 points. The reason being, Rhythm actually have the tiebreaker against both Wildcard and Chiefs. So if Wildcard actually win this, that means Rhythm can actually knock out Chiefs, and in a way could even knock out Wildcard. So right now, Rhythm have got their Wildcard banners on and hoping it makes things easier for them. Let's see where we are going to be heading for this match, which holds so much at stake. No surprises here. We're this close to Chalet, but we get Clubhouse, which we did allude to in the pre-match tonight, guys. We kind of expect Clubhouse and maybe even Oregon a bit tonight.
Yeah, I'm just going to bring up the results between these two and work out exactly what we're playing with. So in fact, the last 2 times that these teams have played one another was on Clubhouse. Most recently, it was in APAC South League. It was a 7-4 victory to the Chiefs. And then before that was the Wrecked Gauntlet. It was a 7-2 victory to the Chiefs. And I vividly remember that match being pretty dominant in favor of Chiefs. Keep in mind, though, a bit of an iffy result on that one, given the nature of the tournament. But there is a track record here for the Chiefs to take this in regulation.
I think, as you said before, though, which wild card shows up tonight? Right? Are we going to get the wild card that showed a bit of resurgence midway through the season, or are we going to get the wild card that's been struggling? Obviously, missing Diesel and other issues that have plagued them so far. Going over to Clubhouse, maybe they'll be happy here. I'm not sure. We obviously both actually tipped Chiefs, so we're not going with the favorable upset, because that's what it would be if Wildcard were to win this. An upset. Chiefs are probably the better team right now. You would kind of hope so, considering Wildcard circumstances. And for Chiefs, you know, they've got to be, they're playing for something here, right? They lose this, and there's a chance they don't make playoffs, and that would be horrible, especially under their new organization. Got to get something from this game, whether it's an OT loss, an OT win, or a win. Either of those three scenarios will secure them the playoffs. So less pressure, but they've still got to get the job done as we head into our second match of the day for the final play day of the seasons. It's sure to be a banger. Chiefs, wildcards, playoff ramifications, all out on the line as we head to Clubhouse. It's a must win for wildcard. They've got to get all 3 points. Simple, really. If they get 2 points, they might still have a chance, but then we're getting into some funky territory. Let's go look at the bans.
Looking back at when these teams most recently played, it was pretty typical bans. For the most part, that said, the Chiefs did do some experimental stuff in Rect GN, but we won't worry about that too much. Thatcher taken off the board here by the Chiefs. That's to be expected, and they'll likely follow that up with a Malusi ban if the trend continues. Wildcard, what will they respond with? Will it be something a little bit more aggressive? Not really. It is one of the hard breaches. Ace, of course, quite proficient on this map and was banned in the last matchup. Now, we might see Wildcard take the mute off the board. They did that last time they versed the Chiefs, and it is increasing in popularity here on Clubhouse, but no, it'll instead be the Kaid, and it is one less form of wall denial that the attack will need to deal with.
Well, in the last matchup we saw of Clubhouse, we saw the Ace band, we saw the Thatcher band, we saw the mute band. Are we going to finish with the mute? No, it's actually going to be Goyo. So Mirror's actually on the board here as well. That gets through, which in the prior matchup, Knight's Bliss, that was banned, as it usually kind of, well, sometimes is. Sometimes we see the Mirror used, sometimes it gets through and then doesn't even get used. So it'd be interesting to see how that one plays out here, but no mute ban, Kaid off the board, Goyo off the board. And we head to Church Arsenal first up. Chiefs on the defense, Wildcard on the attack. And that's the way I like it, guys. I think I do want to see Wildcard on the attack first. If they can have a good attacking half, it might just favor them then going on to the defense here in Clubhouse.
Wildcard attacks can be a little bit funky is probably the best way to describe it. They love to play into the last second execute meta where they establish their foothold and then go for the take, trade things out. That said, sometimes that can make them look a little bit slow, and it's probably safe to say that their synergy at the moment is not as great as it once was, and does make it a little bit more difficult to pull off these plays. Now, I did hear a little man in the background say roam. I think that might have been you, Xenox. Yeah,
I hope so.
That's probably what we're going to see here. Worthy bringing the castle to the board, reinforcements invested above, and probably most importantly, the mute. Made it through the ban phase and will facilitate the roam. They can deny walls, they can deny intel, and that makes it tricky for Wildcard.
We just saw the Snap Fitness community vote pop up on your screens, 58% to 42% in favor of the Chiefs. I would have probably said about 60-40, guys, but hey, you know, we're not going to squabble over 1 or 2 percentage points here or there. Chiefs, the favorites, that's the way we've sort of labeled this matchup and the way it should play out. And of course, as I mentioned before, so many ways, even just 1 point gained and Chiefs will secure playoffs. So out of all of the 4 teams vying for playoffs, they've got the best chance here. Defeat Wildcard, move on to the playoffs in form as well. And not only that, but if they do actually get all 3 points, they have an opportunity, of course, move further up the standings as well. So a lot on the line here for both teams. We'll see, though, if Wildcard are happy to stand up to the challenge, or maybe, maybe they got eyes on stage 2.
Maybe. That's a whole nother storyline in itself on who, if anyone, Wildcard pick up for stage 2, but I guess that's a discussion for later, or maybe even another day if Wildcard do end up making it through to the playoffs. Honing in on this round, though, the Chiefs still dedicating to the roam. Good vert here from God Legion. That's watching in towards kitchen, but he falls off, expecting maybe a push from CCTV. The position, though, is retaken by Fisho. So far, Wildcard are not really playing into this at all. They've got a kitchen hatch open, potentially a couple of the others as well. So maybe they can avoid the roam.
Minute and a half into the round, every round is just going to feel so vital. They all just stack up at the end of the day. The Chiefs' roam, though, is this going to prove to be difficult for Wildcard. If they can win a lot of these shots, win a lot of these fights. Silex just pushing through dirt by himself. I'm not sure exactly what's going on here, but it's not looking good for Wildcard. As I say that, Vinny's been able to find 2 on site here in Arsenal. Oh, just saw the gun and now gets God Legion. He's got 3 for the round. 2 versus 1 leaves it all up to Imran on the Sophia. Also on site. Up against Worthy and Fisher Guy, although Imran has been spotted out, has no idea where from either. Fisher Guy above in kitchen, Imran going for the plant.
Needs to stick it. It'll be a long 7 seconds.
Dead.
He hears the hatch drop. Surely Fisher, can he hit the shot? He does. Gets the down.
He doesn't know.
Of course, can no longer self-revive. Fisher doesn't know because there's no points enabled in comp play, but I'm sure they'll find out soon enough. They confirm the kill, and Fisher can counter defuse the bomb.
Well, do you want to take us through that game, guys? Because I got absolutely no idea. It seems like Wildcard just sort of circumnavigated their way around the Chiefs' roam as that man's about to launch off into space. Got past the roam, got onto site, but got met by, I think it was Vast. Silex ended up slow pushing through dirt, I think, and just ended up dying first more than anything. And well, Wildcard's attack was subdued pretty easily.
Yeah, it was a bit of a strange round. I guess the roam did come back to bite Wildcard, at least at the very end of the round when they started to get a foothold off the back of Vinny popping off. They had that vert above, and it made it very, very difficult for Imerin to get into that one. But it was a good round there from the Chiefs. Again, as you said during that round, every single round, in fact, in this match, ultra, ultra critical. Probably more so for Wildcard because they want to close it out in regulation, but it's still very important for the Chiefs as well.
Good start for the Chiefs and probably good to get off the board with a win. Not allowing Wildcard to even get a look in early on is definitely going to be the play for them. In saying that, though, you know, we saw in the last matchup, Bliss got off to a 2-1 start. It was their defense in saying that. And then we saw, of course, Knights bring it back from there. I think they went on to win the next 4 rounds out of the next 5. So things can turn pretty quickly if you're not careful. Got to take each round. You got to roll with the punches, as Juicy said. Take each round as it comes. Wildcard, got to make sure that they don't let their mental drop at any point. If things start to get out of hand, there's a really high likelihood maybe you start 2-0 or even 3-0, but you can bring it back. You can always bring it back.
Seen a lot of comebacks in OCN, particularly on teams starting out on the attack. They'll go down 4-2 as you would expect on a lot of maps, and then they bring it back. Could be the same case here, but still very early days. I'm keeping an eye out on players like Pat, for example. He's been a little bit quiet in the last couple of weeks, finding it tricky to get frags onto the board. So hopefully he can have a big one. Emorin has found some consistency as of recent and can be a pivotal player for Wildcard as well, so he'll be one to watch. Vinny as well has already popped off. 3-1. He's been a standout player for Wildcard so far this season, playing the hard bridge nonetheless here on Clubhouse, but once he gets those charges off, he can pop off. 5.56 is no slouch.
And I think it's been proven that, you know, as you said, Vinny's had a good season, but he needs others to stand up alongside him. He needs the likes of Gio, Pat, Imran. They've all got to carry the load. I mean, Silex has been steadily improving and has become a vital part of the team beyond just finding kills, but being able to, of course, be the coaching game, as you will. But they need their fraggers firing. And usually Wildcard are at their best when it's Gio that's fragging out and having a big game. Vast just sitting in logistics, obviously has to be mindful of that hatch. Didn't really see any presence from Wildcard around there, though. A lot of the pressure coming now from the CCTV wall having been opened. But the minute left in the round, and there's still a lot that Wildcard need to accomplish.
Good drone here from Vinny inside of Lounge. Can cut off any potential plays downstairs. God Legion's off site. What's his play here? It looks like he's thinking about going down below. Might just hold that position for now. Of course, on the Jaeger, no Nitro Cell in hand, so it won't be a massive threat for Plantanar, but can pop off when required. Silex, as always, likely will be the player to watch here late round. A dedicated planter for Wildcard at the moment, as Worthy does cut off Vinny downstairs. That's not a great start, and that timer, it is ticking down big time. They still don't have control of Logi with 15 seconds left.
Flash just trying to get Vast out of that office, and yeah, look, there's just not enough time. The drop down from Geo, though, is successful. Pat there as well, but it's the time that's against them. Silence has the diffuser on that Maverick, and what a double C4 from Worthy. Will catch pretty much at least two very important players, and well, the round's over from that C4 onwards. Chiefs off to a flying start here on Clubhouse, 2-zip to get us off.
An even more convincing round here for the Chiefs than the last. Not ideal if you're a Wildcard fan or a Rhythm fan, in fact, as you prefaced earlier. Big ramifications in terms of the standings on this one. And again, this has been a trend we've seen from Wildcard in Stage 1, and again, we know circumstances for them really, really challenging at the moment, but their time management, it's just not great. In a situation like that, in times gone by, with 15 seconds to go, it wouldn't have felt like the end of the world, but Wildcard would have had better control and been better established for the execute. In that scenario, they were still trying to push Logi and just got absolutely torn to shreds. So they did a great job of clearing cache on the other side of the map, but it really doesn't count for a whole lot if you're unable to get in towards the site. So that is something they'll need to work on.
You also have to give credit to Chiefs as well for the way that they were able to hold out defensively. Although, how much of it, it's the old adage, how much of it is Chiefs' defensive impact versus Wildcard just being too slow to approach the site? You could sit there for days, you could watch over that round over and over again, and you could probably still not make up your mind as to which one had more impact. We're headed to the third round, though. Not the best early signs for Wildcard, but as we head to CCTV and Cash, there's still plenty of time for them to turn things around. And one thing I know about Siege more than anything in this region, and just the APAC region in general, is you're never out of it. I mean, we saw that with that 6-0 comeback in APAC South with 7th effort night. Ever since then, guys, anything's possible.
Silex on the Maverick. I think he's trying to suss out if there was a mute jammer on the wall. Of course, you do get the little indicator, I believe, still on Pro League settings. Definitely hear it through the wall if it is there. It's placed on the right-hand side of Vinny. The wall will get blown open. Oh, they're going to go for a rush. Wildcard, they're going deep. They get shut down on the initial cross. The Silex does find one. Leaves it in effectively a 2 versus 3. Fast eventually is confirmed. Emo Ruin could get cut off from behind and is from God Legion. He finds 2. That's huge, and now it's Silex left in the 1 versus 1, forced to send it deep. God Legion holding strong. Silex has the pistol out. Surely he can't win this, and he doesn't. It's huge from God Legion, and the Chiefs will get the round.
I don't even think I said a word that entire round because it was over so quickly, but talk about fast executes so far tonight. We saw it in the Knights Bliss matchup. And both times we actually saw it from Knights' perspective with their fast execution. They were successful both times against Bliss. This time, though, from Wildcard, the big one was I felt like the entry shot to the player that was top red stairs didn't get that kill initially. It all happened so fast I didn't actually catch names, but from that point onwards, then Wildcard were just fighting to have an advantage. And as you said, God Legion coming from Con gets 2. That basically secures the round for Chiefs, and they're up 3-0 here. And their playoff lifeline is looking quite secured as long as they can keep this up for the remainder of this match. Wildcard, on the other hand, their playoff lifeline is looking in tatters.
It's an unfortunate position that Wildcard really find themselves in now. They've tried 2 calculated, slow executes. They've also attempted the rush. Neither has worked out. The last round, super duper close, but God, Legion, just a menace. Could not be shut down by Wildcard and wreaks havoc to keep his team with a clear advantage. I wonder at what point we start to feel like this match is over. I'm not quite at that point, but it is starting to feel like it's trending that way, especially with how much Wildcard.
Don't go too early, guys. I know a certain Dev Marta who went early last week. I think he went early at 1-0. It was that early. Look, 3-0 is a bit different. I'll give you that one, but still plenty of time for Wildcard to turn things around. If they can get at least 2 rounds here to close out the half, I still value their defense on Clubhouse, but they need to get rounds here on the attack. They can't allow this to get out of hand. A 5-1 half, even a 4-2 is not great, but it's something. Is there some bite left in them, though? God Legion on site with the Vigil. Of course, a lot harder to drone him out since he can't, as long as his ability is active. He's also 4-1 at the moment, and a lot of the KDAs are looking pretty healthy for the side of Chiefs. Worthy with a 4-2-0. Pat yet to get on the board. Just a donut so far from the first 3 rounds. It's so one-sided from Chiefs. They are playing phenomenally. And that's the other part of it as well. Besides, of course, you know, getting into the playoffs. You want to take form into the playoffs as well. And that's something Chiefs can do here with a solid win.
God Legion has been big on this map so far, and I believe he's the only player still left above. No, so him and Fisher Guy have fallen off momentarily towards CCTV, but they still pose a threat on this roam clear, and time is of the essence. Fisher still contesting players inside of Con, can fall back to seek it. The player at the main door doesn't cut him off. God Legion as well can rotate down. This has been such a great roam from the Chiefs. Wildcard don't find any picks, and they've burnt 2 minutes.
The only way that could have been better is if Chiefs had have actually got a pick themselves and made it a 5-on-4 with 50 seconds left and no control. Nothing opened up towards site. This has been perfect from the Chiefs. There's a bit of work in kitchen as that hatch does get opened, but there's only 45 seconds left. There's not a lot of work elsewhere that has been done. You know, Mute Gem is still up on site, makes it hard to drone onto site. At this point, I'm thinking you might need someone to drop Moto Hatch. Really just sort of have diverse locations where you're dropping down onto site, open up different sight lines, and make it very difficult for Chiefs to be able to get quick frags. If you have 3 people dropping kitchen hatch, this is just going to be a loss.
They're opening the black box angle though, so this might be winnable, but I think you're right, Xenox. Someone needs to step up and have a big play. It could be Pat as he finds the first.
Oh, Geo gets one as well. Vinny coming through dirt. This is actually pretty good for Wildcard, all things considered. They've done well to be versatile here. Bring this round back when it looked like maybe it was dead and buried. Still work to do. Digital still up. Oh, Fisher Guy got 2 as well. Chiefs win the round. Staggering stuff, guys, because I felt like Wildcard had worked their way into a winnable position. But Fisher Guy and Dig come up big. Chiefs are 4 in zip.
There's a great effort there from Wildcard considering the time constraints they had to work with, but I can't help but feel that, again, the timer was what lost them that round, and they did a fantastic job in trading out most of those picks, but the Chiefs, really good communication at the end there to find counter trades, and were able to win that round out clearly. And, wow, this has been nothing short of dominant so far.
That's the sort of round that would put my mental in the bin a bit. I'm not going to lie. You looked like you were really building up to something. That, you know, for Wildcard's sake, they were getting into the round as it went on. Yes, they left it a little bit too late, but I still felt they had enough time. They were getting frags. At one point, they were up 5 versus 3. So they had worked their way into that round. And unfortunately for Wildcard, just too big in the end for Fisher Guy on site, along with Digital as well. And ultimately, Wildcard 2 succumbed, and now they're down 4-0 And that just has got to hurt.
Yes, there is a very small window for Salvation here as they head over the Chiefs, that is, back towards Gym Bedroom. Salvation, a wild card. It's all about time management. That timer just... If you're on the attack, and sometimes kick down what feels a lot faster than 3 minutes. They can go by rather quite quickly. We saw Wildcard on their last attempt. Take from Cash across. Worthy gets lit up. He gets away with his life, droned out further inside of Bot Garage. Maybe Wildcard can find an early pick.
This might sound a bit harsh, but I'm just not even sure if finding an early pick's enough for Wildcard anymore. It's the way that they're able to actually close out the rounds that matters a bit more than getting that opening pick. It's almost like there's 2 steps they've got to take. They keep doing the first step, but they can't quite execute the second step, and that's why they're just down at the moment 4-0. And now it goes even from bad to worse. Gio's going to be the opening death of the round. Vast finding that frag on the mirror. Wow, I mean, you don't see that too often where CC wall gets opened up and a player's just standing on the balcony and just job's dead.
It's nice from Emo. That's a Vast on the mirror, taken down inside of Cash. May have been trying to rotate back towards the site. So that's great work there. Worthy and God Legion are both below. Wildcard should be droning this out, knowing Cash is clear, and taking this
back
quickly. Just take it, lads. The time they're burning now is going to cost them later in the execute. There's no one contesting this.
It's too late. I mean, but do they even have that information though, right? Do they have that?
They'll have 9 drones.
4 of them active as well. Look, there's still a bit of time, but this has probably been the biggest issue for Wildcard so far here on Clubhouse is their time management. They had such a good opportunity to have already dealt with Cash, to have already dealt with Con, to have had a player putting pressure on logistics so much that they probably should have already done, and yet it hasn't happened, and there's only 50 seconds left, and then, well, we can't sit and be surprised when Wildcard make a 10-second push again.
That mirror from below will be tricky to clear, but I think that's why Emo Rin's now going down below. He'll likely be able to impact that, pop it open, and allow the push through Con. A quick drone will make sure that kitchen's clear so that he can execute upon that, as Vinny does find a pick. So if there's any round that looks positive here for Wildcard, at least in terms of man count, it is this one. There's a chance here, as Emo Rin does pop the mirror window. They just need to be clean here, though. Maybe find one more pick and then go for it.
Is he tempted to? He was, and he is going to lose it out, though. And I think this might be the only way Wildcard actually get the round win is just by eliminating everyone. God Legion's left. You almost just don't count him out. He's 6-2-2. If he can swing into through Jim, he can maybe deny this, and he's going to do such a thing. Fortunately, Vinny had the cross angle. Oh, almost. For a second, my heart sank for Wildcard, but they do win out. Gets the trade.
Please. Oh, my heart. What is this? The second he ran in that corner uncontested, I was like, no, not like this, please.
God Legion ran as fast as he could, guys, to get out of the way, but not fast enough.
Oh, God. Oh, well, Wildcard. They might be able to bring this back to 2-4. I'm still not totally convinced after that last round, but hey. More than happy to be proven wrong. CCTV cash, though, that'll be the objective. Trying to cast my mind back to what happened. Oh, it was the rush. That's right. It was over in 15 seconds. So don't expect that to probably come out once again. It should be a little bit more methodical here from the attacker.
Well, that's the thing. Expect the unexpected. And in this case, it's like, okay, the rush execute didn't play out as well as we would have liked. But they surely won't expect us to do it again, right? Let's just do it again. That's probably the mindset I would have, which is why I'm in gold 1.
I think I'm gold 1 at the moment, so I really shouldn't be laughing too hard at that. Ah, well. So the Chiefs, stock standard lineup. extension in towards Garage Rafters. No rotation next to the reinforcement in towards CCTV, so that does extend the amount of time it will take for the attack to open that up, at least by a little bit. Again, more traditional here from Wildcard. They'll open up Bot Garage, work that, clear the mute jammers, and apply pressure over towards Rafters. And in conjunction to that, of course, they'll get CCTV wall open. Vinny's popping that now.
Well, I really want to get in here and ask you something here, but if Chiefs play this more conventionally, play open Rafters, a lot of pressure on Cash, CCTV, play a top red, if they minimize as well the roam game, I think that might actually play into the hands of Wildcard. Keeping it simple for Wildcard here from Chiefs' side. Whereas what we've been seeing from Chiefs' defense has been a heavy roam style. We've been really seeing them put a lot of pressure on Wildcard early in rounds. Can't necessarily do it as much here on Cash CCTV, but if Chiefs play into that more structured approach, I think it could pay dividends for Wildcard.
Yeah, it could be the case. Fast though, he's strong on this Rafters position. I can remember quite a few occasions where he's popped off. In fact, he got an ace here last year. God Legion opens up the bank account, and that's Geo taking that. Salix dropped as well. It's just falling apart again here for Wildcard. That said, Eno brings one back, and yeah, the res could be on. If so, then it would be the 4-on-4, and then if it plays into that structured execute, Wildcard might still have the upper hand. Only a single C4 in the hands of the Chiefs make it none now, and now it's really only Digital that has planted on.
Hang on a second. Oh, the swing from Fisher guy. Imran had no idea to expect that one after he felt like CCTV was clear for the longest amount of time. He had so much free time as well to clear that shield, did so. And the Fisher guy just pops out and says, hello, don't forget about me. 3 versus 2, minute left. He actually didn't clear the shield. So that's still up here for Fisher guy and Chiefs. 55 seconds. This opens up a better sight line, although he's going to have to fix this wall as well. Looking over towards Rafters. Digital top red. We know that Dig is always in these clutch situations. Doesn't necessarily win many of them though, Guz.
I think there's a fair chance here that Wildcard might need to send it deep. There's still 2 smokes on the board with 35 seconds. It's going to be pretty iffy here. If Wildcard go for the default plant, they have to hit this perfectly.
Pat's got to be the entry man here. Of course, the only one with full health. He is going to go in. Below. He's got the diffuser. That smoke is going to deny Pat. Fortunately, though, he does have full health. No C4 in hand for Fisher guy from below. Only so much he can do. 15 seconds left. Pat looking for kills now. Now he has to stick it. Now changes his mind. Changes the angle. Dig in the clutch situation, but Silix watching the cross. And Wildcard will close out the half as they breathe a bit of life back into this game.
Well, seemingly out of nowhere, Wildcard, they've managed to achieve the pass rate here on a clubhouse attack. It's 4-2 as we enter the second half. There appears to have been attack pause. We'll get confirmation on as to who called that. I would have to assume the Chief, but okay. So it's actually a tech pause. So hopefully we get that sorted out nice quickly. But wow.
Is it a tack pause though?
That could be.
Look, full credit to Wildcard because they were staring down the barrel of defeat. Down 4-0. Most importantly, that 4th round was a big throw and a big let off for Chiefs. In another dimension, it's 3-3 in the half, and you're saying it's game on. 4-2 is not impossible to come back from. If Wildcard get off to a good start, win this opening round, a 4-3 scoreline doesn't quite look as ominous. But of course, if Chiefs get at least just one, it blows back out 5-2 to a +3 differential. Things suddenly look bad again. But on the defense, one thing that will 100% that Wildcard need to do here is not play too defensive. They have to almost take a leaf of or out of the Chiefs' book and employ that sort of roam game a bit, especially on, like, say, Church Arsenal.
I think the concerning thing for me is that a 3-3 would have been a lot more favorable for Wildcard. We need to remember that they need a regulation win here. So an overtime win just isn't going to be enough. Like, it literally won't be. So they're not positioned in the greatest of spots, and I would still argue that those attacks are not overly convincing. So maybe a little bit different story on defense. I don't quite know, but yeah, it's just again a testament to how difficult it is to call these games. I was pretty confident in backing Chiefs when they're at 4-0. They're looking really strong. Yeah, they'll probably run away with it pretty easily, and then Wildcard pluck 2 rounds, and now it's game on.
How embarrassing. Everyone see my thinking face there for a second as we come back here. Quick little rehost 4-2. So a bit more time needed for this tech tac pause for Wildcard. No, probably is an actual situation. Look, I'm happy that we've got ourselves a series, though. We've got ourselves a game. It's 4-2. It's not exactly looking too dire. Good signs from Wildcard. And the biggest thing for me is whenever you lose, how have you lost? Are they close rounds or are you getting sort of obliterated? Some of the rounds were close. Some of the rounds were pretty one-sided in favor of Chiefs. So you got a little bit of both from Wildcard's sake. In terms of Wildcard's wins, those were pretty close as well. So seeing the best signs here from Wildcard, you would have to still say, guys, going into the second half, Chiefs are clear favorites here and should be able to, close this game out.
Yeah, and again, just leading on from that standing story, the Chiefs only need a singular point in this matchup to progress. So they're positioned nicely. They can enter cruise mode a little bit here, chill during the downtime, and really hone in on exactly what they want to execute on these attacks. There's been a couple of decent highlights throughout here. A couple of players really stepping up. One for me is probably God Legion. Not sure how many highlights we'll get of him. Oh, here we go. He steps up in round number 3. That was quite a big one at that, and it really was a pretty ugly game of Siege on occasions, particularly late round. Both teams really going back and forth, and it was a little bit sketchy, but Wildcard, they did get those 2 rounds most critically at the end.
Yeah, and as I said, the 2 round wins for Wildcard, not exactly the most clean and methodical wins, but wins nonetheless. While we've got a little bit of time here, I do want to sort of just track back a bit to sort of the ramifications of the results and sort of how they all unfold a little bit. Now, as you mentioned before, guys, any point will do for Chiefs. Even just an overtime loss gets the job done. So they're pretty close to that. For Wildcard, though, 2 points would actually be enough. And the way this works is they have the tiebreaker to Rufflecopter. How great for them, considering Rufflecopter are on 9 points. Wildcard would need 2 points to match that. And of course, with the tiebreaker, that would put them above Rufflecopter, which would mean they would need Ruffle to get nothing, and they would also require Rhythm to not get 3 points. So there's a bit that would need to happen. Not ideal there, guys, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about this because we're in a rehost. I'm sure Wildcard, that's probably the least of their issues at the moment. I mean, you just can't waste any mental energy on that. It's been a very busy last few weeks for these teams. I'm sure that's probably starting to slowly have an impact if it hasn't already. So compounding that with any external pressures or worries is really just not the play. And that was probably a game plan in itself for a lot of these teams heading into this final play day, is just block out as many external factors as you possibly can, play in the moment, and don't worry about anything else. Don't worry about the scoreboard, your standing, how many kills you're on. It doesn't matter. Just play 1 round at a time, chip away, and just try and get the job done, and have faith in your ability and the ability of your teammates as well.
Fortunately, I'm not playing, so I can look at all of those fancy stats and fancy formulas that can sort of dictate where things may end at the end of the night. I think looking ahead, though, Rufflecopter versus Order, it's going to be tough for Rufflecopter, that's for sure. And then for Rhythm, you kind of expect maybe Rhythm to get the job done against LFO, which would mean that 2 points may actually then not be enough for Wildcard. So, of course, all 3 points would be more ideal, but we'll see how, of course, that all plays out later on tonight. In terms of the game itself, though, 4-2, there's a chance for Wildcard to really get right back in this, as they've done so in the last 2 rounds, picking up those wins. They just got to be cleaner. Of course, though, they're now on the defense, so they don't have to worry, I guess, about having taken so long on their attacking rounds. But at the same time, they also now don't want to sort of do that in terms of the defensive side. By doing that, I would mean by playing too defensive, for instance, and allowing Chiefs to just do as they will.
Yeah, and it's important when you've got players like Gold Legion, for example, already showing form. Chiefs have great entries. Worthy, there's a real window for him to step up now on that entry position as well, and try and find early picks. As you mentioned, Wildcard, they're more than likely going to lean into a more turtle-heavy play style. I wouldn't expect to see them roaming. I'm not counting it out, but I probably wouldn't expect it. And that's simply because their synergy at the moment just isn't as great as it once was. It has been slowly improving, don't get me wrong, but of course nowhere near as good as it used to be. That said, I think the defense will help them a little bit in the sense that individually their players seem to be finding a little bit more comfort, at least on average across the board. And on defense, if you're taking on a lot of ones, obviously that is favorable and you don't need as much synergy technically. On the flip side though, players like Pat, for example, really finding it tough. So as long as he can find himself in the game, the rest of the team as well, they should be looking okay. Chuck Silex on a smoke. I'm sure he'll do God's work, and who knows?
I think this first sight's going to really dictate it, right? Because, as I said before, 5-2 makes it a bit hard. You got to really stretch to get some round wins. The one thing I'm going to be looking though is for Chiefs and sort of how they play their attacking style as well. Very intrigued to see if they're going to sort of go very gung-ho, very fast attacks, if they're going to look to get in early. Of course, as you said, maybe not expecting Wildcard to do much roaming. So that means that they can sort of do their sweep game really quickly, get, control the kitchen early. They can have a play go through dirt if they want. There's so much that they can do. Get those hatches open really quickly. And then if they can have like all the hatches open with like a minute to go, it's free real estate. And then they could maybe then somehow look for a pick through like the floorboards, for instance. So really curious to see how this is going to play out. Of course, just in a slight rehost at the moment, which I don't mind really, all things considered. There's so much on the line here. You want to make sure we are in tip-top shape coming back into the game. We are using Dev's spreadsheet? I saw that for a second. He's done a great job tonight in the old observing. Has Dev Mata.
Yeah.
I think he's been pretty good.
Yeah, it's done all right. And one other person in the servers that has done a pretty good job is actually Digital. Keep in mind that it wasn't that long ago that he, at the last second, had to step down from playing in Apex South. He wasn't feeling well. Apparently, it was just not a good sight at all there, and Moloska had to step in. But he's back, at least tonight, doing pretty well before the rehost, going 2-3 on the smoke roll. He was doing a decent job late round in denying some of these pushes, particularly that last round number 6. He was playing really good on the plant denial, but then Wildcard were able to send it deep, and they just didn't have the manpower to shut that down. So at least from an individual perspective, again, considering the circumstances, not sure if Digital is feeling 100% yet, but still putting in the performance in the server.
I think the big thing for Digital as well is he's found himself in these scenarios so often throughout not only OCN, but even Apex South. And the more often you find yourself in those positions, the better you're going to get kind of at it, right? It's more practice in the real scenario. So he's going to get more proficient at it. It's a good thing. It's a really good thing for Chiefs as well. They know they can rely on him. Also a good thing for him from an individual point as a player. Makes him a better player. So I'm really happy for Dig. He's had a pretty good season thus far and look forward to seeing how he plays in the playoffs, provided, of course, Chiefs can secure and lock all of that up here. And, they are looking good in this match. It's been pretty commanding. It's been pretty one-sided. I mean, at times, Wildcard have of course, gotten 2 rounds on the board, but even in those rounds, Chiefs looked pretty good, which is really good for Chiefs because they are a team that can be inconsistent. Coming into this match before, we weren't actually sure which Chiefs was going to show up or which Wildcard was going to show up, and that's been the season as a whole, and that's why Juicy said earlier, you got to roll with the punches. Got to be very versatile. You might get the really good Chiefs or you might get the really bad Chiefs. You're not sure exactly which one's going to happen, and well, right now, I think we're getting a bit of the really good Chiefs.
Those second chances after today, of course. It is the final play day of the regular season of OCN 2021, stage number 1. Playoffs this weekend should be pretty hype. Neither of these teams, though, will be too excited about that yet because neither has actually confirmed their position in said playoffs. Should be a lot of fun. Gauntlet format. The Chiefs in a position to elevate themselves in the standings as well. I think that's pretty important to touch on. So they can... because they used to be able to elevate. Yeah, funny. They can position themselves deeper in that gauntlet format. In fact, where's the highest they can place? So they're currently heading into this payday on 10 points. They get a full regulation win. Of course, that's +3. That puts them on 13 points. Which means that potentially they could finish 2nd? Or 3rd? I think 3rd.
No, they can finish. They can finish second. That
What was
would
their
require
head-to-head with
Bliss.
Bliss?
Order.
Okay, they won the head-to-head with Bliss, so
Yeah, they
and
lost
Bliss
to
didn't
order,
win
of course. Yeah. Second's their best. Third's probably their most likely, which is kind of rough actually for Bliss. When you start to think about it, they were first coming into tonight. There's a very high likely chance that they will drop to fourth by the end of it, based on their earlier loss to Knight. So that may actually make things very tricky for Team Bliss later in the playoffs. We'll head back out and turn our focus to this matchup, though. Of course, Chiefs need to get the job done. You know, it's one thing to sort of look at where they're going to place and where they're going to finish, provided they get all 3 points here, but they still have to achieve that. Still a ways to go. 4-2 is the current scoreline. And no surprise to see sort of Chiefs already towards kitchen, minute 40 on the clock. Very quickly here. There's no roam game from Wildcard, and Chiefs are fully aware of this.
yeah, as expected, Wildcard heavy on site. They have the util, of course, to facilitate that. And I would presume that Vinny, the Valkyrie, has good intel on site as well. Worthy being cautious on the hatch, sending out 2x Kairos at a time to counter any potential impact trick. Both Geo and, well, I was going to say Vinny still had impacts as God Legion finds that pick. Was that at bot blue at the generator? Surely that's where it was. I doubt it was a flank. I have no idea. Okay.
It's going to leave Wildcard at a disadvantage with 50 seconds to go in the round.
Ah, there he is.
Oh, right. Okay. Pushed up pretty far over into Oil Pit. God Legion drops down. Imran watching, though, over at the generator. They did find one back, at least. Vast eliminated. Sledge is out of the game. It's your guy just trying to clear out that utility from the ADSs. 30 seconds left. Imran is just pushed aside by God Legion, like most of the players of Wildcard currently are. It's a quad. Can he find all 5? And the ace, no. Worthy will shut out Silex over in dirt. Methodical. And it's the second time God Legion has just made Wildcard look like children.
And again, it's rounds like these that make me look at the scoreboard and say, how is this game not over? This should be a 7-0. The Chiefs on the rounds that they're winning are just completely dominant and very rarely giving Wildcard a look in. I mean, this push down blue, perfect. Emo reinforced out by the nade, the follow-up kill onto Geo, and then the finish on to Pat. Almost got the ace, but Salix was secluded over towards dirt. And I said that these players on the entry for the Chiefs were going to be such a massive threat. And Wildcard is unable to shut them down.
Yeah, and it's I mean, we obviously didn't see Vinny over an Oil Pit. We know he died there. But it's an aggressive position to hold. And you just have to wonder, though, is that the right play? I guess in a way, though, if they just sit on site and they're not playing in some sort of off-angle position, then you can criticize at that. So regardless, you're almost going to criticize it. If it works and he does find a kill, then you praise it. It just doesn't work out. And that's almost the round as a whole there for Wildcard. It just doesn't work out. So let's do it again. Let's go Church Arsenal and let's do this one more time. And I say one more time because, well, at this point, they kind of need to come back all the way and win the next 5 in a row, guys, if they're really going to make playoffs.
This is season-defining point. If they lose this, they're going to get a maximum of 2 points. And that won't be enough. Because they didn't win the head-to-head against Rufflecopter. Actually, they did win the head-to-head.
They did. It can be enough. It just is very unlikely.
But Rufflecopter would then need to not win any points against
or Rhythm. Yeah.
It's a bit complicated. Basically, this is season-defining point for Wildcard. If Wildcard lose this, don't have too much hope in them making the playoffs. That's basically the simplest way to think about it.
Well, if they lose this in regular time and Chiefs get all 3 points, Wildcard are 100% out. There's no question about that. And right now, Chiefs are on the verge. Also, one thing I should mention, and this is in a lighter note, Chiefs are 1 round away for securing their place in the playoffs. They go to 6 and they will be, without a doubt, in the playoffs, no question. You can celebrate early, even at 6-2. From that point, doesn't really matter. Chiefs won't care too much. what happens after that?
Well, there is standings and standing implications, so you still want to, I guess, go for the full 3 points. DPU start into the gauntlet, arguably the higher chances are of taking it out, so I guess there is that small little carrot being dangled, but as we mentioned in the rehost, these players won't be thinking about that. Chiefs will just want the win at whatever cost, and I doubt they'll be relaxing too much even if they do secure this round, which so far for them is going pretty well. Third established in kitchen hallway, and again worthy 2x Kairos at a time will pop the kitchen hatch. No one contesting that from Wildcard. Geo the only player with impacts, but Alex to save them, maybe for the church triple wall later in the round.
Bomb located.
Such a stark difference between these two teams right now, where they're at. Wildcard are just like the team that's a deer in the headlights against the big dogs. Whereas last season it was, you know, the opposite really. Wildcard were the big dogs. They were the ones that would throw their weight around in the matches, and now it's just flipped completely. Almost a little saddening to see, but they've had enough time now that those excuses are long gone to what they had at the start of the season, where the excuses were quite valid. And as I said before, maybe all eyes on stage 2. And it's going to be God Legion getting droned through dirt. And it's going to force Silex back. I mean, they kind of expect Silex to be playing dirt. He has so every round that's fine. The gas canister. Not quite for the drone, but it almost looks that way.
Yeah, trying to push back Gold Legion alongside Digital. Flashes go out, utility being burnt.
Oh, wow.
It's going to be tough for Silex to hold on, but he can't. It's a 5 versus 4 with 15 seconds left.
Fishon guy's in as well. He's getting that plant down. This is just disaster for Wildcard. They have just been pushed aside. Chiefs are just so clinical right now. The team that's usually so inconsistent. Well, right now they're bringing their best. Woo! Flawless. Match point. 6-2. And they are making this look like child's play.
And just like that, they're in the playoffs. Woo!
Woo!
Go the Chiefs. The boys in blue.
Celebrate good times. Go Chiefs.
That was something.
Never again.
No. Yeah, it's been a good performance from the Chiefs, and it doesn't feel like this momentum in the second half is really going to slow down anytime soon. That's the same objective now, won twice in a row for the attack, and Wildcard will switch things up, head back, or head above rather, for the first time to CCTV and Cash. Mixed results for them on their attack.
Attackers need to locate and defuse.
I'll be looking
as
to
many bombs
switch
as they can.
that momentum in their favor though. 5 rounds, or 4 rounds straight now, I guess, to get it to overtime. Looking increasingly unlikely.
And it's upsetting to see Wildcard in this position, but it's also extremely comforting to see Chiefs being able to play at their absolute best, which they have done so, being led by God Legion as well. I mean, we had the rehost, so you're not going to fully see how good his stats are this match until later on, but he has been incredible. Digital's been good, and as a whole, the team has just been outstanding to watch, and it just builds that form going into the playoffs, also to close out the season of APAC South. So all good signs for the Chiefs, when just maybe over the last week or so, things looked a little bit bumpy for them. And that's all that's really stopping this team, in my eyes, from being even, honestly, at their absolute peak, could very well be the best team in the region if they can deal with inconsistency issues. That might seem like a big call, Guz, and in a way it probably is. And it's a lot of teams that do have those inconsistency issues, but you deal with them before everyone else, and hey, you get to the front of the pack.
All about peaking at the right time. And someone that would know about that is the Maverick on screen now, Fisher Guy, previously on the Sinistar, then Noble, then Malincat squad. They themselves had notoriously bad form when it came to playoffs.
And very high highs.
Yeah, he'll know that all too well. Meanwhile, though, he's working the CCTV wall with coverage on the rappel. Seeming to have a couple of issues. It was shotgunned out by the defense, making it a little bit tricky, but it gets finished off there by Fisher. Digital with the skeleton key, you can open that up nice and wide, and of course now the Chiefs can begin to apply pressure to Vinny, who's playing on rafters.
Should mention as well, fun little stat, especially for the Chiefs fans, but as they do close this out 7-2, they will have the highest round differential out of every team in OCN so far. Of course, still with 2 matches to be played. only really Order probably being the ones that could catch them in that regard. They would have to sort of those stomp Rufflecopter. So that's a good sign heading into the playoffs to have the highest round differential. Of course, they won't have the highest points, but see if they can close this out and finish strong here in what would be a very commanding victory, very deserved victory as well, having played so well. Minute 15 seconds, slower approach, not too surprising, and teams get to match point. Just kind of bring things back a little bit, reel it in, and they're going for this comm push, which we don't see too much in OCN, but a lot of the SEA teams do execute this way quite often.
Impacts will be critical here from Pat, denying that cash ball from being opened. He has them in hand, throws out one, and I believe it connects. But of course, Worthy still with 10x Kairos in the bank, and a line of sight already established will force Pat off. He needs to play behind that deployable shield, and now the Chiefs can open that all up nice and wide. Additional utility being cleared out as they prepare for the execute, and I expect Fisho to probably try and dive in deep, get on top of that table and get the plant down.
Nothing spotted yet from Chiefs. 25 seconds left. They've been very methodical with their executions on their attack, and even more so when they were on the defense. Gas canister thrown out from Silex. Perfect time to do so, because now time is of the essence here for Chiefs. 14 seconds left. They're in the red. There's still another gas canister in the pocket of Silex, so that's going to force Chiefs to just push on to sight. Bars with the flank, but he does get stopped by Silex at top red. Double from Digital. They're all dead in the blink of an eye. It's all over. Chiefs 7-2. Too good, too quick. What a match. They will head to the playoffs. And for Wildcard, their season is done and dusted. Bottom two, unfortunately for them. And they will now look ahead to stage 2, while the Chiefs look ahead to playoffs.
Boys in blue come up strong, and despite a mini comeback of sorts there from Wildcard, the Chiefs proving way too strong there, particularly on the late round of those attacks. No response from the defense. And the form now for the Chiefs heading into playoffs is really positive.
Yeah, the highest round differential as well at the current stage, +9. Unless Order in the next matchup to play can, of course, do one better. That puts them to 13 points. They go above Bliss. So Bliss, of course, now go from first to second and now to third as it currently stands. Chiefs will jump up momentarily, guys, into second place. But, of course, we've got the Order matchup to come after this. So we're not going to look too much into that for now. But, as you said, good signs and also good form going into playoffs.
Yeah, it was a great performance from the Chiefs, and I did get a little bit worried at the halftime break that maybe I called it a little bit too early, because Wildcard did mount, again, that mini comeback with a couple of tentative attacking rounds in number 5 and 6, but it really then flipped. The Chiefs were just absolutely all over Wildcard when it came to their attacks, and didn't have some of those scarier moments that we saw from Wildcard late round, and that really is the difference maker. Just that little bit more confidence and synergy on the board was enough to get them over the line.
Yeah, I mean, you almost make it sound like they just scraped over the line. They decimated Wildcard, and even the 2 rounds that Wildcard won, Wildcard scraped by in those rounds, right? So Chiefs were just on another level tonight. They definitely brought their A game, and you can see it with their stats. God Legion 14-4. Now, I don't know if he's going to get MVP for the night, simply based off the fact we only played 9 rounds, and this wasn't like an OT banger where he racked up 20. But had Wildcard mounted some sort of a comeback, he probably would have got 20. So he, at 100% cost, along with Bast as well, even though he went 4-8. I mean, right now, I'm just going to say it, that's my MVP of the night. With 2 games to go, though, but God Legion is in the front by a large margin.
Yeah, definitely leading the pack at the moment. Plus for an entry as well is just huge, giving his team that advantage, and that's reflected in the round history, as you can see. Round number 1 was the only round where the diffuser was planted. Every single other round, it just came to trading it out, sending it deep, and finding those picks, and the Chiefs thrived in that environment for the most part.
They thrived in general on Clubhouse. The second time we've, of course, had Clubhouse tonight. This one was way more one-sided than the earlier Knights Bliss matchup, and full credit, of course, has to go to Chiefs in their role in this match. They were too good for Wildcard in the end. We kind of questioned coming into it. I mean, even the so-called expert panel, I think, had 2 or 3 tipping Wildcard to take out Chiefs, which I just can't believe that. Of course, we went Chiefs all the way. Yeah, the Chiefs, as we've got an interview from our ever lovable favorite. It is, of course, Digital, who has been popping off a little bit lately, mate. Congratulations, firstly, on securing playoffs, but also on
Thank
a
you.
very outstanding win, 7-2. Very clinical from you guys.
Yeah, it was a good win to get it under the board for us. We needed it. Couple of losses previously, so this was a much needed win, and yeah, glad we just were able to do it.
Yeah, how are you guys heading into playoffs? I guess it's going to be quite a different dynamic. You've been playing best of ones now for quite a few weeks. It's been a pretty hectic schedule. The gauntlet's going to change everything up. It'll be best of 3, and I assume you'll have a bit more time to prepare for your matches. How are you feeling heading into that?
Yeah, just like preparing ourselves, like we always do, really, just sort of taking it game by game, really, which is what we've had to do because of the 4 officials. Like a week at the very most. At most, it's like 3, but anyway, it's just a lot of officials during the week, so game by game. But I feel like this last week, we might have a little bit of free time, considering this is our last game. So probably just scream and get into it. I think this coming second, I think we are just means we'll have more time off, more time to kick back and sort of just go over things. So definitely more time to prep, which is good, yeah.
You seem pretty focused and locked on, and as you should be. Of course, you got APAC South tomorrow onwards, and then obviously playoffs is where it really matters the most. Tonight just seemed like sort of getting the job done. You guys did that, but going into the playoffs, you guys have surely got to feel like you can beat anyone, especially when you bring your best.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. I don't know. It just when we're playing our best, I feel like we're definitely hard to beat. So just need to make sure that we're all working off each other, coming well, and yeah, I feel like we're definitely something short of unstoppable. So yeah, it's good. Oh, sorry, I'm just like my throat's killing me.
Yeah,
Mate.
that was what I was going to ask you quickly. Obviously, APAC South the other week you had to play out last minute. Just how are you feeling on a personal level? You popped off in a couple of rounds tonight, so I guess it isn't too bad, but obviously not ideal.
Yeah, nah. That night I was definitely not feeling well, but it's a steady climb back. All that's left is just like a really sore throat and just a couple of headaches, but I'm grinding my way back. And yeah, I'll get to 100% again. I wanted to scream so loud after that play and after God's play as well, because God went off. But I gotta hold back for a bit and save it for playoffs.
Hold it for the playoffs, mate. Hold it for the playoffs.
Exactly.
Keep the hype for then. Yeah.
Exactly, Wiz.
Probably should have told God Legion as well to hold some of those plays for the players, because he was insane tonight. Look, before we let you go, any final shout outs, especially to your new wonderful organization?
Shout out to Chiefs. Always like shouting out my teammates. Play well tonight. And yeah, just shout out to the fans and everyone watching tonight. Appreciate the support. Means a lot.
Definitely, you guys are going to have a strong backing of support going into the playoffs, and best of luck as well for the rest of the season in APAC South.
Yep. Thank you. Cheers for the cast, boys.
Well, it's a 80% fit Digital, and yeah, he played like 150% tonight. He didn't look like the cold was slowing him down at all, so it's a bit scary that there's even more room to improve Digital coming into the playoffs, and maybe the case for the Chiefs as a whole. They showed us a bit of their strength here in this matchup against what is a wounded wildcard Guz, but we know that at their best, I mean, even Knight should be wary of them.
Yeah, at their best, they're the best. I think, as I sort of briefly touched on in the interview, it's going to be such a change of dynamic, going from a lot of rapid fire best of ones across 2 leagues to really narrowing down to a single weekend where it's best of 3s. It just changes everything, and you often find that the cream really does rise to the top there, and it's going to come down to questions like, do Chiefs actually have the depth in the map pool? Because we haven't seen it tested with these 5 yet.
Yeah, a chance of a redemption as well for Fisher Guy in the playoffs. Hopefully he can turn his personal playoff record around. We're going to go to a quick break, but of course we've still got more awesome games to come. After the break, it's Rolf Copter fighting for their playoff life versus Order.
5 seconds to go. Drop the bomb.